First item is approval of minutes. And I think we got two sets of minutes that I'm seeking approval for. What is that, July 20 something? July 29th and August 1st. I'll accept the motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any corrections? Okay, Mr. Gaynor.
Voting is open.
The voting is open.
I can't get into the network yet, so I'm gonna, can I vote verbally?
You don't want to vote.
Yeah.
You're absent.
How can we vote without him?
Abstain.
I can actually do it
You
without
can
doing
put,
the
you
online
can
option.
enter mine.
Okay.
Okay.
So if everyone else votes, I'll ask Mr. Zucker once I have everyone else. All right.
Are you on?
Okay, I'll go ahead and just take them.
Are you on, Beverly?
No.
Have our
Okay.
computers.
Okay.
All right, so we have,
We got technical difficulties, so we have to go back to the old way.
I like the old
But
way.
you
I
do.
prefer the old way.
I like all this stuff.
Okay.
So what's going to show up?
I'm sorry. This is all my fault.
We
is
still
your
getting,
fault.
we're still
Nobody's
new.
gonna argue
we're
that.
getting
This is
through it.
much quicker than
Much-
voice vote.
Yes.
Much quicker.
I voted.
All right, so Mr.
Did-
I
That's
just
all right,
voted.
Mr. Register,
Yes.
Mr. Posh.
Yes.
Mr. Zucker,
Yes.
Mr.
I
Silverman.
already voted on the computer.
One more time.
Yes.
Ms. Wright,
Yes.
Are we going to voice vote for the whole meeting or?
No.
Oh.
Hopefully, if Cal can vote,
I'm in.
then we'll get Beverly going.
Yes.
all right, there we go.
You getting up and going?
Mark is gonna come assist you.
All right, so yay, we did, it passed.
Yes,
So the
thank you.
minutes are approved. Okay. So our next item has to do with awards and recognitions, and I think we have our outstanding clinical health students here tonight, along with their instructor.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that right?
So good evening and welcome. Only a few weeks into the school year, and we already have several outstanding students and staff members to recognize for their recent academic achievements. So over the summer, 2 of our CTE students attended the Health Occupation Students of America International Leadership Conference and Competition in Orlando. Senior Yadiah Box and 2017 graduate Sydney Williams placed first in Ohio competition in Toledo back in April, which qualified them for the Orlando conference. Sydney couldn't be with us tonight because she's off in college, but I'm going to bring up our Career and Technical Education Director, Brad Callender, to tell us more about the program and introduce Yadiah.
Thank you, Dr. Dixon. They gave me prepared remarks, but I'm going to sort of step off of those, which is making everyone a little nervous right now. But I want to talk a little about Yadiah and how impressive of an individual she is. She, through the competition she was in, she was able to maintain her poise, confidence, finished first the entire state, first place. Now let me give you an idea of what that's like. We celebrate state champions in athletics with a lot of fanfare. She finished best in the state in this particular thing, best in the state. So that says a lot about her dedication, it says a lot about the preparation. Sydney as well, who's off at college already. But Yadiah, could you come on up here for a second, please? Now, she was a little nervous, and I know she was nervous because moments before we got here, she actually served me my dinner at Wendy's. So she went from school to work to here. So and I said, are you nervous? She said, a little bit. But she's a phenomenal young lady. And if this is the future of healthcare, I don't mind being sick. Good day.
Thank you for that introduction. Can everyone hear me okay? Well, as he said, I am a senior at the Cleveland Heights High School, even though it looks like Heights University. Okay, I'm not very good at jokes. It's amazing to be a senior at Heights, going through Garrity Elementary, Wiley Middle School, and now a senior. Like, I'm really a senior. It's really unbelievable. I remember going into my freshman year at Heights, and my sister told me, who was already a graduate, it's going to fly by. Yeah, it did. I wasn't expecting that, but I'm grateful to have been through Heights. Honestly, this has been the best experience I think I've ever had in any school district. And there's something special about Heights. The family vibe you get when you walk in, knowing a security guard, good morning, and even the community. Cleveland Heights and University Heights is an amazing, diverse community in multiple ways. Going to HOSA, the international conference, I've met people I never thought I would have met from states I've never been to, never even thought about, honestly. And being able to meet these people and to connect with them is not something most people can do. Most people, when they walk into a room, they go sit with someone that's just like them. I sit with everyone because Heights is so diverse and ethnic backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, economic backgrounds, and social backgrounds that you meet any and everyone, and you're able to work that. And I got those networking skills in my career tech program with Miss Casey Graham. And I'm grateful to have had a teacher like her who was so dedicated to it. Coming into my junior year, I was taking classes at John Carroll University as an early college student, and I was taking Miss Graham's class for 2 periods. It was a little bit challenging, but Ms. Graham made it so easy. She always worked with me to make my day not too hard. And the benefit for me was, and my event at HOSA was interviewing skills. Ms. Graham is very big on employability skills. It's something she gets on us about all the time. And I remember doing in-class interviews with groups of 4 where we had to dress professionally and our group members would grade us. And just the dedication Ms. Graham gave to us every day. She always wanted us to get better. Every Monday we had Motivational Mondays, and it was a very long motivational video where it's just someone in the mountains climbing it with one leg and a man with a very strong voice telling us, you can do it. I mean, silly it may sound, but honestly it had a big impact on me as a student and an individual. So if you guys wouldn't mind giving Ms. Graham a round of applause. Before I want to talk about HOSA and my experience there, I really want to just thank Heights. Not even just Cleveland Heights High School, but Cleveland Heights, the community, University Heights, the community, because the constant impact you guys had on my life since I was 10 at Garrity, oh my gosh. I'm not saying I would have been crazy, but I wouldn't have been who I am here today, and I'm so grateful for this community and this school district. Now going into HOSA, this is where it gets crazy, okay? I've never been on a plane before, so the morning where I had to meet Miss Blue and Sydney at the airport and Miss Graham, I was like, you know what, it's going to be okay, Yedaya. Quick little pep talk, just going to be thousands of feet in the air. You never done that before, but okay. You can even ask Miss Blue. My eyes were closed pretty much the whole flight, you know? It was definitely an experience. But landing in Florida, and when I tell you the whole airport was filled with HOSA students, you saw HOSA everywhere, HOSA t-shirts, HOSA backpacks, and it made me feel like, okay, there's others like me. We're going to be cool. We're going to go there. And it was amazing. I did a workshop there, met some beautiful people, and it was just, wow. I wouldn't have got that experience at a different school district. I wouldn't have been exposed to all those people without Heights. And going there and doing the workshops and having to communicate with people that were nothing like me in some ways was amazing. And not being shy, not being hesitant, because Heights doesn't allow you to isolate yourself. You're constantly put in an environment where you're not by yourself. You're not the only one. It's everybody. You're like, they say America is the mixing pot, bowling pot. Melted. Okay, I was close. Okay, I was close. And that's how Heights is. It's so diverse in so many ways, and I love each and every teacher and staff member that has made my experience so great and allowed me to do so well at HOSA. I didn't expect me to get first place at States. I didn't expect to go to Florida and meet all those people at the international conference. If you ever see me in the school, on the back of my backpack, it's all these pens, pineapples, it's the state of Texas with a snake on it. They're all pens from HOSA that I met different people from those states, and we traded pens. Honestly, I'm trying not to smile too hard, but I'm so grateful for Cleveland Heights. Everything that you guys have done for me and my family. My two sisters that graduated prior to me both went through a career tech. They didn't choose exercise science, but they went through one. And they're going into that field now. I have a sister that's in the about to go to Cleveland Heights Police Academy, and she went through criminal justice. And I have another one that's a junior at CHUH, becoming a psychologist. She stole my major. It's okay, though. Heights, you guys, all of you, like, you've made an impact on me, and I hope you know it's more like me. So I'm grateful for what you guys have done for me and what the Career Tech program has done for me as a student. Hi, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And you too.
Oh, I'm supposed to do this.
Sure we will. That's protocol.
Let me go on the trip.
You can't go on everything with junk.
I guess that's true.
Thank you. It's an awesome presentation, Daya. And thank you to her dad, who's here as well. Thank you. And Mom in the back. Oh, hi there. Thank you for trusting Cleveland Heights University Heights to educate your third child. So thank you. Thank you. So now I'd like to recognize a group of staff members who've worked tirelessly to earn an International Baccalaureate Certificate for Monticello at Heights Middle School. To receive an IB certificate is no easy feat. After school applies for candidacy, the IB organization works with the school on program structure, staff training. The process is rigorous and can take several years to accomplish. The IB program emphasizes action in the local community while understanding the larger world context in which we live. Monticello joins Roxborough as an IB certified school, making Heights Middle School an all-around international baccalaureate campus. This is truly a step in the right direction toward educational equity for our students. The Cleveland Heights School District now has 4 authorized IB schools: Canterbury Elementary, Roxborough Elementary, Monticello Middle, and Roxborough Middle. Fairfax Elementary is in the IB school candidacy phase with the goal of gaining authorization by 2019. Congratulations to the former principal of Monticello, Patrick McNichols. Remember, I moved Patrick last year to Monticello from Roxborough so that he and Leslie Garrett and the team could accomplish this task, and they did. And the current principal, Dr. Jeff Johnston, the IB coordinator, Leslie Garrett, and the rest of the team. We also have with us here our Title I teacher, Yolanda Harris, and Social Studies teacher, Shariah Dora. So if you guys will all come up, please, so we can get a picture and just recognize you for this great accomplishment. Come on, gotta take a picture for the website. Come on, I come over with you.
Just so you know, Fairfax is this year.
There's the certificate.
Oh, this year, I'm sorry. Excuse me, Ms. Gary just corrected me. I have the wrong year. Yes, Fairfax will be authorized by the end of this school year, 2018. Thank you.
Oh.
Want to get them one by themselves first for their website? Scott. Hold on, Ron. Just wait here. Just right, okay.
I can sit down.
No. Okay, so that's it for our recognitions for this evening. Thank you.
Okay. No public address. Okay, we don't have any public address. Do we have any statements from the audience? Okay, so we're at the superintendent's report.
Okay. So we've had a great start to this new year. I've had a chance to visit all of our schools. Cabinet members have been to our schools to make sure that they had a smooth opening. So I just want to publicly thank the staff for all of their efforts in making sure that our schools were up and running. A special thank you to our buildings and grounds staff. They've done a phenomenal job to make sure that we've had everything that we needed to start our opening. A couple things, if everyone take a look at this painting, this will be the last time we'll see the painting in this boardroom. So as you recall, artist Phyllis Stelzer, class of 1948, donated this picture to the board, I think in March of 2014. She wanted to, she dedicated this to the new high school, and the board decided that they would house it here. And so now we found a space in the new high school, and we're working on a dedication plaque, and we're inviting the artists to the event on Sunday. So we got to figure out what we're going to do there. Maybe we can commission some other artists in the area to maybe dedicate something for that wall space. So take a long look at that. September 10th, remember, that's our community open house. So Scott sent you some information and details about this event. It's only 5 days away. Please wear your name badges that Scott had for you guys. So if that would be nice if you wear your name badges. We're anticipating between 1,000 and 1,500 people there, so it'll be a great time to so people can recognize and know who you are. The Tiger Shop would officially open Thursday for doing curriculum night, so they will also be open Sunday for the community event. And remember, this is a partnership with the CTE marketing teacher, Sarah Parker, and Work Lab teacher, Laura Stewart Lilly. So if you could take a look at the shop, it looks really, really nice. October, we have our first MSAN student conference. So our students will be hosting that conference. The theme is Fighting Our Cause, Unified in the Struggle. And we have a guest speaker who is also a Cleveland Heights alum and Hall of Fame inductee, Jeff Johnson. So he will be speaking. Students will be taking tours at Case Western, Kent State, and Cleveland State, and also have an event at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So there's an event the first night. I put in the weekly report. If you would like the board members to join me in welcoming the students, we're expecting 200 to 300 students from all our MSAN districts. So it'd be nice if you join me to welcome them at that event.
At the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
No, at the hotel the first night. It was. The AFT president, Randy Weingart, will be in our district tomorrow. She will be visiting classrooms at Boulevard, Heights High, meeting with teachers and social workers. And there's a reception in the library tomorrow at 4:45 with some staff members and the coalition members. So if you want to meet her and come and have a conversation. She supports the communities and school initiatives, and she also is supports the equity work that we're doing. So she was appointed to the Equity and Excellence Commission several years ago, and so having a conversation with her about those two initiatives, I think, will be valuable for our district. Also notified you of the superintendent coffee chats. So beginning this month, I will be holding community coffee chats throughout the various coffee shops in Cleveland Heights and University Heights, with the first one being Friday, September 22nd. And that location is to be determined. But it's for anyone who wants to come out and have a conversation with me about any topic, and hopefully talk about some things that we're doing well, and even if we're not doing well, they have opportunity to tell me about that as well. September and October work sessions will be held at the mini auditorium at Heights High. this is an opportunity, we're talking about data. So we have our presentation with our Director of Data, Allison Bird, along with our Educational Services team. So we moved it there. Remember from our board retreat, we talked about we wanted have more conversations and let the community know where we are, but more importantly, what we're doing to close the achievement gaps. So this would be a larger venue that will allow us to have hopefully a fruitful discussion about data. So September and October work sessions will be held in a mini auditorium. And then the last thing, so we know we've heard a lot about the devastation that happened in Houston. So I reached out to Tanisha Briley, and we have decided that on Sunday, we're going to ask our community members to bring school supplies and book bags to the event. And we figured it's a community event. We're anticipating lots of people. So if people will bring school supplies and book bags, we're going to work together to ship those to the Houston Independent School District. But this is a way, rather, that the community and the school district can jointly come together and give back to the students in Houston. But they definitely need a lot of school supplies and book bags. So that will be coming out. We have some more communications about that. And the city is on board as well. So that's it for my superintendent's report. We also have 2 conferences to approve. I'm sorry, not conferences approved. Field trip.
The middle schools?
We have a middle school's field trip and then the first reading of our administrative policies.
You want to do
Let's do the
field trip?
The field trip. Mm-hmm.
I'll take a motion to approve the middle school's field trip to D.C.
To Washington, D.C.
November 8th through the 10th.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, questions? How many students do we expect to
You know,
bring
I
a trip
don't
like
know.
that?
With the 2 schools going together, I'm sure that's going to be fun. Yeah. I'm not sure. Do you know how many do they usually take? Over 100
It
from
says-
both schools?
It says
From both
150 to
schools?
160 on the.
From both schools? Yeah, it's right there. Thank you. What?
Okay,
Okay, voting is open.
is it?
Yep.
Passes.
So next we have a reading of our board policies. I have Dr. Lombardo to come up. So we know we gave you lots of policies to look at. So tonight is our first reading of those.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, there is no need for board action, but this will be the first of 3 readings for our board policy review. Just real quick, the board policies come from Neola, and for those that have heard the word Neola, it used to stand for Northeast Ohio Learning Associates, but because they now handle different states, they're just called Neola. Okay, and what Neola is, it's an organization that takes all the new legislation that happens, federal and state, and they have lawyers that take templates and they update current policies. They may revise policies, or there may be new additions based on the new legislation. And those templates are given twice a year to all the districts, one in August and January, and then we vet them through our district, and then they're presented for the board for 3 readings. Okay? So to do this, I suggest the way we do this, if it's okay, is we'll go section by section, and I won't read all the policies, obviously, but if there's a question in each section, I'll be happy to answer those, or at least take down the information and get you that information.
Question, only for the sake of brevity, I went through it, and my take on it was the overwhelming majority of the alterations were changing of the contact person, a little bit of language or nomenclature. So the question I would pose, instead of going through, unless you want to go through every section, the rest of us want to, my question would be, my first question was going to be, okay, I looked through all the pages, because it was very nice to highlight the colors, so you can tell what's new and what's not. Are there, aside from changing a staff name, what's the highlights? What's the stuff that we should really be focusing on? Because the overall majority of it was just boilerplate. So I guess the question would be, when I'm looking at it before we have 2 more readings, I guess, what should I go back and focus on?
Well, you'll see a lot of the bold blue or red language is any additional legislation language that was placed in. So I would go through all of them and just look at the bolded. Anything that was struck out, they feel we don't need anymore.
Right.
And then there are a couple deleted policies. In a deleted policy, what they've done is they've either transferred the relative language to other policies. So that's in there somewhere. So when you see a deleted policy, that information is still within the other policies, either revised or new proposed policy.
It struck me, because I thought that was the case, because I was coming across, and wait, it looked like I had read this before, so that would explain why.
Right.
Well, I guess, is there anything in there that is, hey, this is something new, this is a hot topic, this is, I mean, are
No,
there
what
any
the,
red flags, if you will?
yeah, what Neola has done is they've done a lot of technology updates, and you'll see that throughout the next year or two. So in the 7,000s, you'll see a phase 2 of the technology updates, and a phase 3 is coming soon. So you may want to, focus on that area. But you're right, a lot of them are name changes and smaller changes based on some of the legislation that has happened in the last year.
There was some, the component in regard to concealed carry is, I guess, because I know when I go to the library, there's a sign that says you can't have a weapon. Is that the same, I would assume that the same for us, if we have a sign that says no concealed, you can't bring it in, correct?
That's correct, right. So I will open it up to any of the policies. There are 54 of them, so if you have questions on any of those, I can take the information, or if you'd rather email me some of your questions, I'll be happy to answer them, considering this is the first reading.
I'll defer my time to the gentleman from Englewood, since he's got about 50
Well,
posted notes.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have to go through each one. I can email you some of them. But I guess I had a couple overriding things.
Okay.
One I think is probably rhetorical, but so have all these policy changes been vetted to ensure compliance with the newly negotiated agreements?
Yes.
So they're all, okay, good.
Yes, I have.
The other thing, I just would, there's a couple areas where I think that you just want to look for consistency. So and I can point out the policies.
Sure.
But there's policies where you'll have that the person who's going to be in charge is the chief financial officer, and then the exact same policy in another section, because in different sections, it's the same policy with, for administrators, and then for staff, then for, maybe for students, but you'll say, instead of chief financial officer, it's chief financial officer or his designee, or his or her designee. Similarly for the superintendent. I would assume that what you want on all those policies is to say exactly the same thing. Chief financial officer and or his or her designee. And I'm happy to send these to you by email, which ones those are. But there's also one where it just says financial officer. So again, it just makes sense for it to all match. Help me with one thing that Eric mentioned, that some of them were just changes of names. Why do we ever put names in policy? I could see why we put a position in policy, but if we put a name in policy, doesn't that force us to change policy every time we have a change in staff?
That is correct, and a lot of school districts do put the title of the person, not necessarily the name. And I know when we went through these before, I think we went back and forth on, people may want to know the actual person to contact. So
Right.
That's why we landed on putting the name in. But we can do position without the name, because you're absolutely right. If we do put a name in, we would have to change them each time that we go through them.
Or even each time we change it, if we change our email,
Correct.
for instance. So, I mean, to me, I understand the notion of people wanting to know people's names, but I would think there's other methods to do that are much more easily changed when those things change. I mean, policy, I don't think people really just spend their time reading through policy manuals as much as I need to know who to get to in this situation, so we would have a guideline or something that would handle that, I would think.
Absolutely.
And I think a couple years ago, it came up when we were trying to decide who was the person, if they wanted to, it was Toya Robinson and Jeff Johnston.
It was the male or
The
female.
male or female, there was a names, and we kind of had the discussion, and I think the board had asked us to put,
Right, I believe that.
yeah, to put the names, and that's why we went in that direction because of that. But
Your idea.
Yeah.
It's probably my idea. Thank you, Eric, that was great.
I don't know if you were, I think it was Eric. But yes, we can go back through and change
If you would
that.
like us to take the names out and just put the titles, we can make that change overall
I
too.
mean, that's
Yeah.
just a suggestion.
Yeah.
I mean, we should hear what other board members think, whether they think that's right.
No, let me put it this way. How frequently do we do the review of the policies?
Twice a year.
At least once or twice a year.
Therefore, it's a moot conversation, because if we're reviewing every 6 months to a year, even if we have even a modest amount of turnover, you're going to be changing them anyway. We're already doing a periodic review. It's not like we do it once every 5 years. We're doing it once a year.
Well, if we're just changing the name, that means there wouldn't be a change on the actual language, just the change in the name. So Neola didn't recommend a change. There was no new legislation, so I think we probably had about 10 of those policies that wouldn't be read, because the only thing that needs changed is the name right now.
I mean,
But you're right,
it's a semantic argument. I mean, my point being
Right.
is that if you're going through it and changing everything every year, if we're reviewing it every year, it's the position, it's the individual name, you're reviewing it every year. It's not like hey, this person hasn't worked for us for 4 years and we had 2 other people in that role. So it's this, I mean, it ends up being a semantic argument, with all due respect to my friend from north of Mayfield.
Yeah, I understand that. Again, I'm more thinking from a theoretical standpoint. A policy, to me, policy wouldn't have people's names in it. Policy
I agree,
has,
right.
this is the role of, and in fact, you'll see other policies where it says to be chosen by the superintendent. It
Right.
doesn't say
Right.
Dr. Dixon. So
Yeah.
I'm fine either way with it. I just thought I'd,
Good,
this
good.
is something to bring up.
We'll work on, make sure we're consistent with the.
okay.
Yeah, I guess like I said, the other ones, I have a lot of small things, so I can, maybe it's easy for me to just bring them in, I can show you those things. I have one that's really out of the blue that has nothing to do with any policies we have, but it's more timely with the news today. Do we do anything that would help any of our students who would be affected by the decision of the government regarding DACA? And again, you might not be able to answer that question right off the
No,
top
I'm
of your
not.
head.
I'm not.
But if I think it's something the board should consider, if we have students that would be affected by that decision, if there's any protections we can put in place for our students.
Okay, we'll look into that.
I suspect that probably, there's a policy in regard to homelessness, so even though they're not the same, I would imagine it'd be the same kind of general overview to a degree.
I'll have to look into that, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it may be difficult. I mean, I know that some of the big tech companies are talking about trying to bring all their resources to bear for their employees. So if you think of it in that sense, something to consider.
So my daughter, she goes to American University, and they sent out an email today to parents, staff, talking about the decision, and they outlined their policies, how they're going to be supporting their students. I'll just send that to everybody. Maybe you can use that as
Okay.
one of maybe a few guidelines to come up with something.
Thank you. Okay,
Good idea.
yeah, thank you. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So
Personnel?
we can take E1 through 5. I'll accept a motion to approve E1 through 5.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay.
Okay, the voting is open. Mr. Wade, you're on now?
Yes, almost, but I'll verbally vote.
You what?
I'll verbally vote.
Okay.
Oh, I'm on.
You're in.
Yeah. 1 second.
The voting is closed.
$12.43. That's a typo. Okay. Someone buying a lunch at Five Guys.
So the personnel resolutions passed. we want to, the board members have a resolution approving execution of a lease agreement. George, you want to talk to us about that?
This is
Let's
the,
get a motion.
We have the donations first.
Donations, you're skipping
Oh,
ahead.
okay.
Okay.
Let's do the donations.
we have one donation to recognize, the Kula Foundation.
Okay.
The S is silent?
I just have the Kula Foundation.
Oh, never mind, I thought there was an S. Never
No.
mind. I'm thinking somebody else. So moved.
Second.
In discussion? Mr. Gaynor?
Voting is open.
It was a Kulis Foundation. I think it's a typo. I think it's Kulis and it's misspelled.
Voting is closed.
No, that's our handwriting. No, but if you go on the one, there's KULAS. That's the foundation.
I think we got a resolution in front of us to approve a lease with us and Right at School. Anybody want to make the motion?
So moved.
In a second?
This is the agreement for leasing of the schools for the before and after care program with Right at School.
Any questions?
When we do these kinds of things this way, do we ever, do we have to approve the lease, or are we giving staff the authority to execute the lease?
This is actually to execute the lease, and Mr. Register will sign it once board takes action on it. We don't, we don't sign up. The board president and Mr. Gaynor sign off on it.
So you guys actually have the lease?
Mr. Register has it in his hand.
Oh, well, there's two, okay. Then next
It's
one
been
is-
reviewed, it's gone through our attorneys and back and forth, all the
I was right, but I-
necessities are discussed and worked out.
Okay.
And then you get it when our attorneys and their attorneys are happy with it.
And this lease, we wanted to make sure that we were not, remember, Right at School, we were not charging anything for them to utilize our facilities. So, but we wanted to make sure that we were also protected if something should happen and they were responsible for it. So it took a little longer to get this lease before you because we wanted to make sure, and they agreed to give a discount to families too. So we wanted to make sure they gave a discount to families, they can utilize our buildings, but we were not making any profit off of it. We could have easily charged them $50,000, $60,000 and made a profit from them leasing our facilities, but we chose not to do that.
They gave us a discounted rate to be competitive, and then they're giving opportunities to free and reduced families for discounts on top of that.
And that's all been worked out, because at one point it was up in the air.
Oh, yeah, it's all been worked out.
It's all been
in the
worked out.
lease. Mhm.
Okay, and is there any kind of term on the lease?
This is currently should be a one-year lease.
This is
Should be
1 year.
one year.
So we can renegotiate it. What I'm asking for is there's documentation. I'm requiring them to prove the discounts to us that they're offering. So after 1 year, we could reassess it and either renegotiate or continue the relationship.
Okay, if it's 1 year, I'd be a little bit more concerned if it was a multi-year agreement. No, that's great.
Okay. Good.
Okay. Anything else? I was trying to find the terms. Okay.
Okay, the voting is open on this item.
It worked a second ago. Come on.
Got it.
Nope. I kept that other one because I could have touched it. Stuck.
All right, Ms. Wright.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
So next, I think we have
Mr. Myers will come up and go through
about 10 change orders.
to change orders, yes, sir.
Motion person. I'll accept a motion to accept the change orders.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. So, Mr. Myers is going to explain the change orders to us.
Can I reduce this? All right, thank you.
Oh, wow, we got ice at the high school, okay.
So we do have a handful of photographs to kind of describe some of the changes. They are two categories this month. For unforeseen, we have $82,621. And for design clarifications, we have $206,115. First photographs that we have are for the courtyard entrance. We ran into some stormwater utilities. So this caused relocation of those utilities, some changes to the foundations for the footers for the entrances. And so there's actually two different items associated with this change order, in regards to this issue. The other unforeseen that we have is actually in the auditorium diffusers. As they did selective demolition, they found that there were some existing structures that interfered with the way they had originally designed the diffuser layout. So on the top, you can kind of see the linear layout of diffusers. So this change actually, we went through extensive discussions about it to vet through the numbers and everything, but there are costs for scaffolding and for additional mechanical work associated with reworking these diffusers. The next couple slides are all kind of some conditions that were in the existing auditorium where the team actually went ahead and finished these spaces out a little bit better. So these are just a couple photographs of some of those conditions.
What we're saying in those situations, we didn't see that ahead of time?
I think some of these locations either were hidden or they didn't know that they were going to be exposed to the extent that they were.
Yeah, where
So
are
as we
these?
went through, these are several different locations inside the auditorium. There's two different levels that they have, kind of hard, but they have some receptacles that had holes that had to be relocated and patched. There's some ductwork that had penetrations that had to be closed up. And these are up in the sound booth.
I
That's
was going to
okay,
ask if they were up off the floor.
That's what I was thinking, is because of the woodwork, the casework looks like it's period style and it's small, so that's what I was gonna say, it's probably the back of the, gotcha.
We ended up painting the stairs in the center to just kind of cover up some of the existing conditions. And there's a dark photographs, but there's actually a roof drain that had to be relocated, and then there's some pipes that were not caught in the construction documents, so. This is the stage front, where there's a plywood stage front. They just could not patch that. So this change actually replaced it with new plywood that could be finished so that we had a nicer finish. at
That
the front.
entire
Yes.
surface there?
Yep.
How much was that? That seems significant to me.
Is that actual change? It's $3,812.
I think this would have fallen under the optimistic category of, they were optimistically thinking they were gonna merely paint it, as opposed to the reality of, it's probably 20, 30, 40 years old and was already pretty beat up, I think, in my opinion.
These photographs show the Courtyard Monuments. So this was one of the larger change orders this month. It entailed the pavers around the memorial for the flag, and then it also entailed, these are 6-inch reinforced concrete sidewalks that they put the monuments on. And so these costs also include the equipment they had between the lift and the monument itself. It was like 30,000 pounds. So I think there were about 6 different locations in all that encompass this change. These changes, this might have been another optimistic item, but we replaced the doors with new doors and stained them in the auditorium. A smaller item, but again, to upgrade the finishes and the aesthetics of the building. And then the item to the right was, there was some architectural lightings that we decided to go ahead and swap out so that they could be at a more prominent entrance. So it's minor items, but they were just kind of to add a little more detail to the building.
That's the east side of the building?
This is the west
Okay,
and the south. Yep.
This one by the football field.
got it.
And this item was an item that had a coordination issue on the documents where we called out, this is at the kitchen area and the rolling door that we had. You can kind of see where the plane of the ceiling is. And what this change covered was to build a fire-rated partition. It was a bulkhead that went over the coiling door so that you could provide the separation between the kitchen area over the door. I think those were the extent of the photographs that we had. As you know, we are in the building right now. We have Fred Rogers is here with the Ozanne Gilbane CMR team, if we have any more questions for the construction manager.
I'm sorry, I'm the dense one. Help me again with the design clarifications again, because,
Right.
so process on this. Eric generously said, maybe we were overly optimistic, and okay. But when you know that part of the design, so I'm taking the words literally, it's a design clarification. So when you know part of the design is to replace a certain area or to make something look good, what expectation do you as the owner's rep have for the people who are designing this to look and see, this building's X number of years old?
Right.
Is it logical to expect that the items that you're going to be refurbishing or replacing are going to be in a certain condition, or might you expect in a school type of setting that there's going to be more? I'm just trying to think if there was a realistic expectation that our people walked in with.
To start to answer your question with the design clarification, it is made up of different items.
Okay.
So that could be an item that was missed by the designer. It could be an item that between the GMP and the documents as the project evolved, it didn't get scoped out. So there wasn't enough clarification for the construction manager to actually be able to price it out with their subs.
Right.
It could be an item where as the district realized that, hey, this was the design that was in place, but it didn't quite meet our expectations because there are areas in between the designer and their interpretation, and then actually what the owner wants. And we have a very close team, and I think with us meeting so regularly, we've been able to find a lot of these items and make improvements. So if they weren't bought originally and we were able to clarify it, all of those items fall into design clarification. So there are general terms of, whether we would say errors or omissions or different items like that, and all of that's being itemized so that we can find. It's difficult because the state of the building with the age of the building, and as you're walking through, and my history with the team is not since the beginning, but as an architect and the engineers as they walk through, if there's equipment in the building, if there's furniture in the building, sometimes it's difficult to see everything. So there's some kind of shades of gray in there.
I think I can understand some of those shades of gray. I think there's others I can't, just being honest.
Right. Right. And so
and-
the
and
design
help me-
clarification, does errors and omissions are being tracked, if that's a part of the questions, because no one's expected to be perfect, but there is a standard of care and professionalism that is expected. And so that's being tracked so that we can watch that as a team.
Sure. I mean, I think, speaking to Eric's point, I think there's there's certainly incentive to be optimistic in your in setting expectations and saying, you can do it for this and you can get this done. But I think in public entities especially, and I think private as well, but it's really important to be realistic more than optimistic.
Right.
So it's just something I would make as a general comment. Help me understand the storm utilities. So are you saying the storm sewer it was in a location we didn't expect it to be? Is that an accurate statement?
Just from the details that I could see from the backup for the change order, when they went to do excavation, they ran into a storm utility line that they weren't aware of.
So help me, and this is real ignorance on my part. Does the city have the responsibility to have mapped out where storm sewers go?
If it's at the street, and then as it gets to your
Once
property,
it's
it
on your
becomes the
property, it's on
owner's
you.
property.
Okay.
So surveys are done, and then record drawings, and so the team tries to do their best, but inevitably there are things that are
That's
found.
fair enough.
After the
Thank you.
tree lawn, it's our fault.
Right. Thank you.
I like where you tried to go with that, Cal, but I just don't think we.
Oh, I know. I gotta
Our history
keep
doesn't
asking.
say we get very far.
I'm gonna keep asking.
with that
It's,
one.
industry standards are different across industries. I'm not quite used to some of these standards, so, yeah.
I've got, my only question on the high school, I got a couple of middle school ones. Did Gilbane do any photographs, like have a professional come in and photograph the building? Do we know?
I don't know if we got those finalized yet. I know,
Fred, would you come to the mic and say who you are?
Good evening, I'm Fred Rogers. Board, thank you for having me here. I don't know if Scott has gotten them finalized. I know that we have several pictures that were taken with, high resolution handheld cameras, but I don't know if we had a photographer come through yet. But I'll get that answer to you next couple of days.
I was just curious because I figured that would be something. I know when we've posted images online of the building, it's gotten a lot of positive feedback online. And so my question was if we had those, then to make sure our PR department had them so we could send them out wide and focused.
Yeah, I know. I know that there's some pictures that are out. I just don't know if they were done by a professional or not. But I know Scott had some things that are out. So we'll make sure we get with Scott. We'll get those shared so everyone has them.
Then I guess in regard to the high school, then where are we on the balance of our punch list, little detail, as we move forward now, how much more do we have left to solve and fix?
I think within the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to have our hands around probably 98% of everything. A lot of it is dealing with mechanical systems and controls, that sort of thing, working through punch lists, interior and exterior punch lists with the architects within the next couple of weeks as well. And also just listening to comments from the end user. There's some issues. We're having a warranty system set up with a ticket system. We talked about that earlier today, how we track items of concern and warranty items so we can make sure they get done correctly, and also track them, make sure that we don't have consistent items of repair. So we're definitely, going to be around and make sure we have that, work with George on that tracking system.
So when we talk about the 8% of the punch list, at some point, we'll see what we're looking at and what might be left over that we'll have to deal with later.
Our goal is that you won't have to deal with anything. I mean, we're trying to get it
It seems to me
99%
that there's going to
completed.
be some things that we're going to have to.
Yeah, I mean, some of it's going to be end user issues. You touch something and maybe something doesn't quite work over the course of time, and we'll come back and adjust some things. And the mechanical, electrical systems, we're still finalizing, like I said, the controls that control the heating.
So the process of the punch list would go from you to
Back to the architect.
us, to you? What's the process? How does it go?
The punch list has been established,
Okay.
and as the construction manager completes the items on the punch list, it's re-verified. So they will complete all the items on the punch list. When we're going to have items that might be warranty issues or items that just aren't working correctly and fall into an area, whether it was not installed correctly or whatever, we've worked with the district so that we can go ahead and we can itemize those items so that we actually have a log of those. So then the architect and the construction manager can be copied on that, so we can see if there's any patterns, whether we have one piece of equipment that is getting several different warranty calls on, and then we can go ahead and we can address that from, whether it needs to be replaced or.
If I may, one thing that may help, Mr. Register, is we use our current work order system, and we actually invited Gilbane to be part of that, and they took us up on it. And any issue that's generated by a teacher, principal, or whoever, that's automatically reviewed by the head custodian, and he has enough knowledge to know if it's something that's, it's our responsibility.
Okay.
And then it's automatically sent to Gilbane, and then we work on whether it's a warranty issue or it's something that was just missed in there and it's going to be repaired. And this also gives us an internal way of tracking anything that's completed that way.
Two items that are small, but they're actually relatively high profile. Where are we on a creative solution to make some of our lovely double hung windows, which are operable? Where are we on making those in a handful of key locations inoperable so that nothing falls out the window?
I was supposed to make a follow-up phone call today, and I was frankly too busy to do it, but I am waiting for a quote from Pella. They will provide us with, and of course, we have to buy it, but a device that will go over the latch and make it inoperable.
Okay. And then I know just from moving in the fall, we have some patches in the lawn which have had one time, two times. I guess what's our recourse to? I know we couldn't afford to do sod or a sprinkler system, and I know we've gotten some patches have come in really nice, and other ones look
Not so nice.
very barren. What's our protocol on that?
Well, my history with schools and lawns is that it normally takes that full next season before you can really get things together. So we're back in the spring and touch up and make sure you don't get a full growth until a year after.
Right.
So that would be your responsibility?
Yeah, if the grass is not growing at it, before the season ends and it gets dormant, we will definitely, but we'll make sure we so note all those areas before it gets dormant and then come back in the spring and make sure we're taking care of it.
Okay.
And we also have an 11-month walkthrough to go through everything that's on the project to make sure if there's any wear issues, any issues out of the norm, we can get those taken care of as well.
Question, the locks on the windows, was that wasn't all the windows, was it?
No.
Okay.
No,
Well,
we have some concerns with some windows that could be opened and then accessed directly to our rooftop. Or, so we're going to make those inoperable. It's not all the windows. We're going to evaluate, and it's just a small device. I haven't gotten a price, so I hate to say it's going to be inexpensive until I hear from Pella Window.
yeah, and I think Eric might have gone up there and saw some campfires up there on the roof, so he thought we shouldn't have that.
My concern was more for like the locker banks where you have, it's nice that they're operable, but the fact is there's a few spaces where I think that I think ABR also wanted them to be operable, but it's great to have individual classrooms. Conversely, I think now, particularly at first floor, before it was very difficult to access the first floor because of the slope of the building, but now it's much easier to get, you can walk right up to it. I think that's what George's talking about. And there's some other spots too where I think it'd be better safe than sorry, because someone could open the window, they leave, and then somebody doesn't know it's there. It's just a little too, if we can do some preventive as opposed, it's better to be proactive versus reactive on it.
So when you go on the tour Sunday, let him show you. Anything else? Anybody? Thank you. So each year we have to approve the bus routes. Oh, we need to vote, don't we?
Voting is open.
Oh, this electronic stuff throws me off.
I had a question for Doug.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, my question, two questions for Doug would be, one would be, when's the next time we're gonna have any conversations with the middle school stuff coming before talking to me and Jim? Because I had a couple of questions. Well, one, I was still waiting on a full set of, they were supposed to get drawings, particularly the layout of the entrance at Monticello, and I also had some concerns and questions in regard to the interior finishes, so I was curious when we're going to have a conversation with Moody Nolan. And then the other one was, I know I've asked for this before, this is, unfortunately, it's falling on you since Pat's not here anymore. If we could get a much more definitive, we talked about this in a few months back on the middle schools, a much more definitive timeline, questions in regard to implementation and potential for phase 2 of the project. Basically, now, we can see 2 years away from the middle schools finishing, then assuming all the different process, how do we game the calendar out? So what is, based upon what we currently know with the state? So if we could get that kind of a timeline of a best case versus what we can expect, I think that'd be very useful, because I think there's a lot of members of the community who expect, once we finish the middle schools in 2 years, we're turning around and starting to do the elementaries. One, we need to educate them on, one, A, that's not necessarily happening, and then two, what our best expectations are for that phase 2 timeline. So those are my questions. Or, I don't need the answers right now, but those are the things I'm looking for.
Okay.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. We haven't done the bus routes.
No.
I'll accept a motion to approve the bus routes for 2017-18.
So moved.
Why do we have Monday, Wednesday, Friday?
Those were the routes that they're different than the regular routes, so they were a separate PDF that he's provided. And I can't recall, I looked at these a while ago, I can't recall what's actually in it. I'd have to pull it up myself. But these are
Well, my
the
question
routes that
is,
you're.
we're actually approving more than what we see.
Yes, you're approving all the routes that are typically bid every year that Scott puts together and manages, from the public to private schools. And each year it comes in front of the board for approval of those routes.
Okay. All right, any questions?
Question, in the past, I've seen and I don't think it was in the detail here, they gave us the exact routes for, where the bus stopped, who it picked up, where they went
It says
next.
that.
Okay, well, I didn't see, when I clicked on it, I didn't see that level of detail. The question I was going to pose is, when I've seen that in the past, it seemed that we don't, and I hate to use the phraseology, we don't commingle public school and private school students. We basically run 2 separate bus systems.
We do typically, because of the different schedules. We can combine bus routes, and I know it's been done on a few smaller instances, but it's typically difficult just because of the locations and the different start times.
So,
There's nothing stopping us from doing it.
Yeah, because when I was looking, it was pretty striking, at least, again, it wasn't maybe not in this iteration, but in the past, it was pretty striking, and I was very vexed by it, because I've got a bus that's driving down Fairmont, it drives down Fairmont, goes in University Heights, drives by Canterbury, and then it goes on its way to Jamestown. I'm thinking, hey, why can't we, that
And
was.
a lot of it's based on a number of ridership, so if we attempted to do that too much, we would overcrowd the
Right,
buses.
well, I understand,
right?
but that's.
This is the first year we're using Versatran,
Okay.
which it may be why some of the reports or what you're looking at is a little bit different.
Yeah, that's why then, okay. Yeah, because I remember the reports in the past were very, this student at this address at this time, it was very, very itemized, that's why I was wondering, okay.
The portal, that's part of this new bus service that parents can actually go into. I'm hearing very positive things about it.
That's good.
I'm sure you guys have too. You guys have done a nice job with it.
I was just going to tell you, I don't know why Monday and Wednesday, but the Friday, especially as the sunset gets earlier, for the Orthodox schools, they end earlier, I think, on Fridays. Might be one of the reasons why there'd be a different Friday schedule. I don't know why there'd be a different Monday from Wednesday, but.
I don't know, I just noticed that.
I can find out. Again, I recall reading it, but I'll check in. And if it's something that I need, I'll let Dr. Dixon inform.
Yeah, but I would, don't spend too much time on it. Find something else to do.
George never has anything.
That won't be difficult.
Okay.
Okay, the voting is open.
Beverly, is your voting open?
No, it isn't. My system has gone down.
I'm going to have to correct that. You get embarrassed when he calls your name and nobody else is right.
Can I make a quick comment to George publicly? The Roxborough, we walk by Roxborough every single day. The playground looks great. The tuck pointing looks great. The stuff you did above the windows looks great. I wish I walked every day by all our schools. I'd tell you the same thing. But it looks like it was a project that was successfully implemented and done. Looks really good.
Did you vote?
Took care of business first.
But
That was different.
that might be a good, for something for Mr. Wortman, if we could do, I think, a recap of the construction projects we had over the summer that weren't Heights related.
That's my fault.
Oh,
Mr.
no.
Wortman's waiting on me to give him just that information.
Well, then that's, there you go, that's.
Yeah, it works as far as I'm concerned.
There you go. All right.
Okay, so, the bus routes are approved. So we get to financial reports. Mr. Gaynor, I'll accept a motion to approve the financial report.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? You got two things, you got the
We
cash balance and then you got the 5-year forecast, right?
Correct.
We want both of those at once?
Yeah, they're both in the same motion
Okay.
and the same action item.
Any questions?
And the only thing I will note is that the 5-year forecast, that version of the 5-year forecast actually has actual numbers for the first time in the 2017 fiscal year end. So you see true fiscal year.
Talking about the one
numbers
that
there.
ends June 30th.
Mhm. Yes.
So has the audit started?
The audit will start, actually, yes, it is preliminarily started,
Okay.
and it'll last through December.
The audit reminds me of them painting the Golden Gate Bridge. As soon as they finish, they go through the whole thing, they
That's
get,
right, they start it
they just
over
start all the
again.
way at the end.
Exactly.
It's not just my imagination then, it's, okay.
Nope. Never ending.
Okay, and we need a separate motion for
Yeah.
permanent
Doing these separate.
appropriations.
Mhm. So we have the online voting is open on item G1. Cash balances for
Okay.
July 31st. 5-year forecast.
Yeah, I'm glad the 5-year forecast is in there. I was trying to go in to see in Borg Docs, because earlier today, not all the attachments were on the public side of Board Docs.
Oh, okay.
So I was just trying to see, it's not letting me log in as another user. I'm just curious to see if these attachments are.
Okay, well, make a note of that, because they should have been
They say
available to
they
everyone.
They say they're in public content, Jim, no?
Yeah. But
Okay.
when I was looking at it earlier today,
Couldn't see it?
from the website, not logged in on another computer, I didn't see them.
Okay.
It does take some time, though, for those attachments to, like, pop up.
Pop up, does it?
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to wait a while.
Okay.
So. But I like having this information front and center so people can actually see it and discuss it and talk about it, and I think it's.
Yeah, I'm stuck.
That's
Let me
right.
see if, let me
Yes.
do escape, see if it helps. Can you put it back up?
It's still up. Oh, yeah, it should be there for you. No.
Wow. Oh, there we go. Come on. I got it.
All right, well, I suppose.
Okay. Beverly, are you up now?
No.
Oh, you called her name? All right. Now we need a motion to approve the permanent appropriations, right?
So moved.
Second.
This is we started the fiscal year off with a temporary appropriation at the fund level, so the auditors, and we're statutorily required to have a permanent appropriation in place by September.
This is the closeout of.
Yeah, and again,
last
it's at the
fiscal
fund
year.
level for this fiscal year. Then you'll note, and I'll kind of jump ahead here, then the next, item number 3, Sue Pardee has actually then submitted some individual grant appropriations for some of the grant funds that she manages and monitors. Because you'll see on the permanent appropriations, you appropriate, or the district appropriates for auditing purposes at the 400 level or the 500 level. 500s are all federal grants, 400s are all state grants. But then Sue, for a different auditing purpose, has to have some individual grant numbers appropriated, and that's why item number 3 is there as well.
And we always have our self-insurance in there and all that, huh?
Correct.
It's significant, huh?
Mm-hmm, sure is.
So the free reduced lunch, is that coming through a federal grant?
Say that again.
The free reduced lunch that we started providing
It's-
last year? Is that a federal grant?
It's a federal grant that got
It's federal money.
through USDA.
Although, does that flow through the state? I'm trying to remember the grant
I
number
think
for
it flows
that.
through the state.
We can
I don't think-
Yeah,
double
we can
check
check,
that.
but I
and
think
get
it
back to you.
I don't
flows
think
Yeah,
it
'cause
flows
it
through
doesn't
the
look
state
like
Yeah.
it's a 500 line item.
Right, although that's not all inclusive.
Yeah.
Those are just the ones that Sue submitted, the ones that are being,
Right.
she's forwarding to you here in item
We
3.
can get that from ABI.
But, yeah.
What's-
Yeah, I'd be
What's,
curious.
Could be federal through states. A lot of times we have that situation going on, so whether or not it's a 400 or 500 fund, we can find out for you.
What's the building fund?
Building fund.
Yeah.
You're on a permanent appropriation?
No, it's.
$30 million.
Oh, that's the money that's flowing through for the capital projects. High
That would,
school,
in-
middle
that,
schools.
that would include the bond money too.
Correct.
Yeah, that's real misleading. People are going to use that against us in levy time. I think they have, actually.
Yeah, because, well, in
If I
a lot of
remember
these, even the permanent improvement funds, a lot of those, or not permanent improvement, but the self-insurance funds, those numbers are really in total appropriations twice. Benefits are charged through the general fund, but then they're also required to be reported in a self-insurance fund. So you're right, the total appropriations that you see there in the bottom line is significantly higher. The general fund is the one that is a true record of our general operating spending, and that's the number that's included in your 5-year forecast. And that's the number that we use to calculate millage. But you're absolutely right. that-
But
that does go up.
this format is mandated.
That's mandated.
It is, yeah.
So,
It is.
so the total, as you said, has some duplicated
Correct.
entries. So really, having a total there is Worthless?
Yes. Other than when, yeah, well,
I mean, it's
again,
really
another
meaningless.
mandate is
I
that
mean,
then we have to
I
put.
shouldn't be flippant about it. It's meaning, it
Yeah,
really is
it really
meaningless because
doesn't,
the number
right.
has duplicated entries.
Agreed, yeah.
Sorry.
Totally agree with that. Okay, so we have item 2 then, which is just the permanent, and voting is open on that. Ms. Wright? Okay, the voting is closed.
And the motion carries. I'll accept a motion to approve the, what is that?
These are the grant appropriations.
Grant appropriations.
So moved.
Second.
Again, these are just details submitted by CHUH for some individual state and federal grants.
Any issues, questions?
So even though these are dated, I guess they're not dated 2018, it's a 9.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're for this year. Got it.
Okay.
Okay, voting is open. Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Voting is closed.
Okay. So the motion passes. Final finance item is to approve delegate and alternate to OSB Fall Conference. I think is November 12th or 13th, something like
November
that.
12th through 14th, yes, and has Mr. Register as delegate and Mr. Posh as alternate.
I'll accept the motion.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Who's all attending the conference?
I think we submitted for Mr. Zucker, Mr. Register,
Evan?
Ms. Wright, and you, yes.
So we'll be well represented.
Yes.
We got any presentations this year?
Mr. Wortman has a presentation.
And Jeff Johnston.
Yeah.
Okay, great, great. Okay, keep it up. Okay, so anything else? All right,
Okay, voting's open. Ms. Wright?
Yes.
it's not open yet, huh?
Should be open.
Just takes a minute.
Is yours open?
Not yet. It takes a minute, though.
I was just gonna say, it should be, hold on.
Aye.
Let me try it again.
There we go.
There we go. All right.
Hit the cup. Right.
Voting is closed.
Okay, so that motion is approved. And I think that, I don't have a board president's report. We got any unfinished business? New business, I put the board handbook that everybody received at the retreat, and I haven't gotten any feedback on it yet, so I'm not sure where people are. But my thought is that we would unleash that after the election, and us as the old board and then the new board go through it together, deal with it together. So anyway, I thought if there's any comments, I thought what we'll do is leave it open until the end of the month, and then I'll put one other look at it with staff, and then we'll adopt it at some point. We should adopt it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So probably sometime either in October or first meeting in November.
I like this notion of unleashing it. We should have music.
Say that again, Cal.
No, I'm not going to.
What did you say?
Like your choice of the word unleash.
Okay. Do we have anything else? I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Gaynor.
Voting is open. Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Oh, I gotta go back and do that.
Voting is closed.
Okay.
Hey, Brad, I need to see you. I think you're wearing my
The
tie.
motion passes and we adjourn.